What's up, guys? Rick from DFS On Demand here, making a video for this week's Honda Classic for the Quarter Arcade Challenge. It is currently Tuesday night. The main Quarter Arcade that we are going to play on DraftKings is currently about half full. Assuming this one fills, well ahead of lock, DraftKings will usually open up another smaller quarter arcade in which I will max enter that one as well. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through the process of creating two separate full slates worth of lineups, so 100 total lineups. What we're going to do for the main bigger quarter arcade is we're going to limit exposure and be more evenly dispersed. And then for the smaller, which last week was a 5K quarter arcade, a couple weeks ago I think it was 1K, so we'll see what this week is. Hopefully it's 5K again. We will do a much more volatile, high-risk approach where we'll probably lock in two different players. So let's start with the spread out version of this. So what you're looking at right now is Fantasy Cruncher, and I have not even gone through and done anything yet in terms of exposure or anything like that. Let's see if I can adjust this screen here. Okay. So I haven't touched anything. This is all their information. What I'm going to do now is I'm just going to go through and I'm going to talk through the guys that I like. And we're going to give them little thumbs up to make sure that we're getting as much exposure as possible to those guys. So right off the bat, I mean, Justin Thomas, if you watch my preview video, I love Justin Thomas. Tyrell Hatton, a guy who is a European Tour player who's playing well right now. I don't know if the public is going to be on him, so I like Hatton a lot. Gary Woodland is a guy who is playing really well. He's a candidate for me to lock into every single lineup. Let's see if I have this stat here. 4 for 4 in his last 4 trips to PGA National. Coming off a T5 last week. Playing well, good course history, good tournament history. He's certainly a candidate to be locked into every single lineup. Spoiler alert, I think Justin Thomas will certainly be one of the guys I lock into every single lineup. He just checked, go back and watch the Honda Classic preview. He checked every single box for me. He's going to be the horse that I'm going to ride with in 100%, and then we're going to have to find his partner at some point. Okay, Steele I like, Cabrera Bello I like. Matt Fitzpatrick I like. And nothing against the rest of these guys. A lot of them I'm fairly indifferent on, but we have to start to draw the line somewhere. Ali, yeah, he's in. Koepka definitely in. Koepka might be a guy who we roster in every single lineup as well. Scott Brown coming off a T2 last week, and then I think he has good. Let me check his stats real quick. Finished T10 here last year, so a really good price on a guy who's in great form, and then finished with the top 10 last year. So I like that a lot. Okay, going down the list here. I don't think there's anyone else who jumps out. Gonna stay away from Bryson. That should probably do it. So what I'll do here is I'm just going to change the advanced options. What I've been doing the last couple weeks is making sure that I don't have anybody more than 40%. That's just a good number for me. I like what that does. I think it gives us enough exposure to these guys without going crazy. And, if someone misses the cut, we're getting absolutely bombed. And then I also like to do a little bit of randomness. So what this will do is it'll actually take the Fantasy Cruncher projections and every time it calculates or crunches a lineup, it'll just add 4% of randomness. That might boost somebody's projections 4%. It might decrease somebody 4%. But what that is going to do is set us apart using the same fantasy cruncher projections. The randomness separates us from the rest of the people using these projections. I'm fine with embracing the randomness. I don't want to use the same projections as everybody else. So combining that with our exposure is going to be a way for us to differentiate our 50 lineups from somebody else who might be, loading in their 50 lineups. Okay, so we'll do that. I'm fine with, every time it only has to change one player. It doesn't have to change two. I don't like to do any of the salary min or max. It's not worth it in golf. I don't think so. Let's just run the first crunch and see what happens, and then we can kind of tweak after that. This usually comes out to be like 25 or 30 players. Yeah, okay, so 27 players here. What you'll notice is a lot of Adam Scott, of course. So these are all the guys that are at 40%, which is the highest they can be. Hatton, Woodland, Rafa, Lahiri, Steele, Molinari, Koepka, Keimer, Howell, Garcia, Peters, and Scott. So some of these guys I like, some I really do not. Let's do a little more research here. This was actually... Lahiri was actually someone who, if you guys read on DFS On Demand, Brad Messer-Smith wrote an article this week, and he writes it every week. It's called The Charts, where he kind of takes Vegas odds and he takes various other things here. Let's see what he had to say, because he wrote something about Lahiri. So this is his chart for... salary versus Vegas odds, which is so usually the pricing on DraftKings for PGA very closely resembles what the odds are for a player to win the tournament. Just the worse odds they have, the lower salary. So let's see what Brad wrote here. Biggest standout this week across several charts is Lahiri, who has roughly 80-1 odds to win, but is priced at only $6,600. 4 straight cuts, that's a typo, I'll fix that, with 3 top 25 finishes and a 7th place finish. Interesting. So it's interesting that, see, this is what's really cool, right? Brad finds something that he wrote about 2 days ago. I hop on Fantasy Cruncher and see that Lahiri's popping up in 40% of the lineups. Like, what's going on here? That is a guy who I probably would have overlooked this week had I not read Brad's article, had I not had it pop up on Fantasy Cruncher. So let's look at this again. So at the Genesis last week, he makes the cut, but basically finishes 64th, nothing special after that. Did really well in his last 2 tournaments on the Euro Tour. A nice showing for a 25th at the Career Builder. So this is interesting. Only $6,600, which is really, really cheap. Okay, I like this. I don't know if I like 40% of him. Maybe we will cut that down to like 25%. So let's go do that right now. To me, he is still someone who's too risky to be part of that part of that 40% range. So let's just drop him down. Thomas Peters is in that same boat. Really great showing last week. A good showing on the Euro Tour, but, a little risky for my liking, especially because he's not like a full-time PGA guy. There was also another good stat on him. Let me see if I can find it real quick. No, I don't know where it's at. Sorry, I'm looking at my other screen here trying to figure out what I read. Oh, here we go. I'm trying to see what he's done at PGA National. does not look like I have it here. Okay, sorry. Another guy who I like and I'm embracing, him playing well at the moment, but again, 40%, I kind of reserve that tier for guys I really like or guys that I think can be staples. Peters to me does not fit that mold. Keimer does not fit that mold. I don't trust this guy. We'll bring him down to say 20%. And this has certainly backfired in previous weeks. Don't get me wrong. One of these guys I'm lowering will absolutely shoot out to be like 5 under the first day and will be the first round leader. I guarantee it. It happens every single week. So hoping just that we're doing this correctly. I trust the process. I don't feel comfortable sending those guys out at 40%. Koepka, I'm fine with. Scott, I'm fine with. Sergio, who burned a lot of people last week, fine. Look how consistent Charles Howell is. That's unbelievable. I'm fine with that. Koepka, I talked about him in my preview as well. Steele, fine. Molinari, really solid, but let's see. I like him because he's always under-owned. Everybody always forgets him, and they always confuse him with Eduardo Molinari. So I'm being serious. I think that actually drives ownership down. Um, it is kind of a weak field. I don't love him at 30. Or I'm sorry, I don't love him at 40. Let's do 30. Again, I'm really reserving this top tier for my top tier guys. Hatton, and again, you can be top tier for different reasons. You can be top tier because you're Adam Scott and you're the absolute chalk. You can be top tier because you're Tyrell Hatton and I think that you're flying under the radar and I want 40% of you. Like you're playing well. You can be Scott Brown. I don't have Scott Brown at 40%, but you could be Scott Brown. Brooks Koepka. Like there's a lot of different ways you can be a top tier option for me. So that's what I'm just trying to capture those real top tier guys. Now after this, um, probably would like a little more Scott Brown, would like a little more Justin Thomas. Now keep in mind, so when I do this, Justin Thomas is going to be a guy I put in every single lineup. So I also don't want 40% of him over here because if he does miss the cut, he's going to punt every single lineup for the other entries and then he'd punt 40% of these. So I'm okay with not having as much Justin Thomas in this spread out exposure, but I probably want more than 6%. I'd probably like him in 10 lineups, so maybe 20% if we can get him up there. Scott Brown, I'd like more of. Louis Oosthuizen, I'd like more of. Um, so now that we've just adjusted some of those guys from 40, let's rerun this and see if those other guys below come up a little bit because we've capped out exposure on some of those other guys. So let's see. All right, so still have all these guys at 40. Molinari goes to 30. Okay, Thomas Peters goes to 24. Lahiri goes to 24. Now you see Billy Horschel and Robert Garrigus pop up. Garrigus is always in here. He's always popping up on here. And you can see he's pretty good at $7,100. He's made, a bunch of top 35s recently. God, I just really hate to go to battle with 34% of Robert Garrigus. I'd rather have 34% of Lahiri. We're going to have to cut him down. The rest of these are fine. Let's see what happens when we cut down Garrigus and Horschel. I thought was another guy I had a note on. I don't think it was a good one, though. Let's cut down Horschel to 25 and Garrigus to 25. The guy pops up all the time, but I can't trust him. Let's actually do 24. We're doing even numbers anyway. And let's rerun it. God, Keimer keeps popping up there. All right. So now this is pretty cool. So I'm fine with these 40%. We have no Ricky Fowler either. Scott Brown gets a little more boost here. Garrigus and Horschel go down. Now we're using 32 players instead of 27 players. We lost a Justin Thomas lineup. I'm wondering how we can get... Let's try this. Let's try... We know we're going to get a ton of Adam Scott, right? Let's try just giving a quick... Another thumbs up to Thomas and a thumbs up to Fowler. Let's see what happens here. That was... So Crunch 3 wasn't bad. Let's see what Crunch 4 is. Okay, still 40% of Scott. We knew that was going to happen. He's the chalk of the week. Okay, Justin Thomas, we got to 16%. Did we get any Ricky Fowler? Does not look like it. Interesting. Wow. Not a. I'd be scared to go. I'd be scared to go in without any Fowler. How can we get him? We might have to give up some. Let's look at some of these lineups here. The thing is, on Tuesday night, every lineup looks like it's a winner. Every single one of these looks like it could win. And then by Thursday afternoon, half of these are just shit. They all look pretty good. All right, how can we get more Ricky Fowler in here? So this might be my favorite one. Crunch 4 might be my favorite because we got more Scott Brown and we got more Justin Thomas, those were two of our goals. We also got a couple Matt Fitzpatrick. I don't remember him in there before. How can we get Ricky Fowler in these lineups? Let's try to give him another thumbs up. Let's see what happens. I mean, it's probably because there's guys, I mean, I know why it's happening. There's guys priced lower than him and higher than him that are projected higher when it comes to Fantasy Cruncher. So I know exactly why this is happening. Let's try Crunch number 5. Okay, we could do this. We could lock him in, but lock him in at like actually, I don't know if this works. If I lock him in, I can't remember if it will do 100% or if it'll lock him in until it hits the exposure that I give him. I forget. It should lock him in until I give him the exposure. That is the ideal way I want Fantasy Cruncher to work. Let's see what happens. So let's say I want 14% of Ricky Fowler. We have Justin Thomas at 16. We have Adam Scott at 40. We may be losing some to get Fowler at 14. I hope this works. I hope it puts him in every single lineup until he gets to 14% and then drops him out. Fingers crossed, peeps. Nope. That's how Fantasy Cruncher should work, man. I can't believe this. See, like, that's what's frustrating about this, and I love what they do. I like Daily Fantasy Nerd a lot too, but neither of them really fit what I'm looking for personally. I want to just tell it, put these guys at these percentages no matter what. I don't care what their projections are. I don't care about their salaries. I want to set the exposure, and you give me lineups that fit it. I cannot shoehorn Ricky Fowler into 14 lineups like I want to. I guess I could do it manually, but that defeats the whole purpose of why I'm doing this. So we'll unlock him. Excuse me. We'll give him a third boost. I mean, I could up his projection. Let's see what happens if I do this. By the way, we liked crunch number 5, I think was our favorite at this point. Let's see. Is this the one that had 16% of... Oh, what was this one? Actually, I thought crunch number 4 was our favorite because we had... This one might be my new favorite. Hatton Scott House Steel. This had Scott Brown at 16, Justin Thomas at 16. Louis at 7. This has Thomas 20, Brown 12, Louis 4. Yeah, let's go with 4. 4 is our current favorite. Okay. So let's see what 7 did. 2 Ricky Fowler lineups. We finally got him. Finally got him in there. It was definitely at the cost of Justin Thomas. You know what? We could probably just lower Justin Thomas to like... Should we just get him out of there? I mean, I'm going to have 100 lineups of him. Or 50 lineups of him. Alright, let's see what happens here. So, if I get rid of Justin Thomas altogether here... Let's see if this gets Ricky Fowler in more. Well, 1 lineup. What we can do is, watch this, we can change Fowler's projection to be what Justin Thomas's was. And I bet you that'll bring him up. Only 3 lineups. Alright, let's try this again. Here's me on a Wednesday shoehorning Ricky Fowler into every single lineup. This is great. Alright. We did it, but now we've got to keep tweaking. So, now Fowler is 40%. Adam Scott is 30%. Not exactly what I wanted. So what I can redo now... This is kind of looking good, though. So what I can redo now is change Fowler's exposure to 20. So he caps out there. All right, we've got Adam Scott back to the max 40. We've got Ricky Fowler at 20. Scott Brown at 12. No more Louis Oosthuizen. Sorry, Louis. I like you, brother. I don't know how I can keep you in there, unfortunately, but I like you a lot. Okay. I think this is now fair. It took 11 crunches, but I think we found what we want here. This is the spread out exposure. It is it's pretty good. A lot of Adam Scott, a lot of Ricky Fowler, a lot of all these other guys. And then what we're going to do on the other side is we are going to blast Justin Thomas and someone else into every single lineup. So stay tuned for that. That is probably going to be something I do maybe tomorrow or whenever that contest actually opens up on DraftKings, but this will probably be what we'll go with as far as exposure in the big quarter arcade. Okay, be back soon. All right, back with part two here, and DraftKings did just release the second quarter arcade for this week. It is only, I believe, 11,000 entrants. It's a $2,500 guarantee. So first place is only 50 bucks. But we're obviously going to max it anyway here. I'll make this real quick since we've already talked about all the guys that I like and whatnot. I've decided to go with Woodland and Justin Thomas for 100% each. We also, again, are going to have a lot of Koepka, Rafa Caballo. He's Hatton, Brown. Those three right here, or these four probably Koepka, Bayo, Hatton, and Brown are probably going to decide our week since they're fairly heavily owned on both sides. But I think we're okay with that. Locking in two players is going to allow us to get some more volatile and some more outlier players that I probably never would have chosen. We get Tim Wilkinson. We get a little bit of, let's see, Mackenzie Hughes. We get a little bit of Wes Bryan. So just kind of embracing that volatility in case one of these guys goes off. We'll have them in a lineup or two. But other than that, we've chatted about it all. This is a long enough video already. I will post all of my full lineups and all of my full exposure on Twitter. I'll tweet it out, and it'll be a link to a Google spreadsheet where you guys can check out exactly what I went with for this week. So make sure to follow me. It's at DFS On Demand. And if you have any questions, send me a tweet or leave a comment below. Okay, see ya.